We begin this hour with the resurgence of President Trump's $1.776 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund that they've previously claimed was dead. The fund, designed to benefit Trump's allies and possibly include compensation for January 6th rioters, was previously scrapped after fierce bipartisan backlash just last month. But yesterday, the Trump administration declined to submit a court-requested sworn declaration to a federal judge, noting that the program is officially dead. Instead, they said the court should just rely on this prior congressional testimony from Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche.
We know that the department has agreed to pause this effort until at least June 12th. I wanted to ask what your plans were for the fund after June 12th.
So thank you. So look, we're not moving forward with the fund. You're right that there's a date that in the case in the Eastern District of Virginia in June, but we are not moving forward with the fund, period.
Instead of solidifying that claim in writing, the DOJ wrote in a notice to the court, quote, "Such declarations are unnecessary and the compelled testimony of senior officials from the executive branch implicates serious separation of powers concerns," which all of a sudden they have. As our colleagues Fallon Gallagher and Lisa Rubin note, the refusal by Blanche and the DOJ to put a pledge in writing not to create the fund is likely to spark political backlash, especially on Capitol Hill, where Blanche's permanent nomination to head the department is pending. Joining us now is Liz Oyer, former DOJ pardon attorney and federal public defender, and Eddie Glaude Jr., a distinguished professor at Princeton University, MS Now analyst, and author of the new book, America, USA, How Race Shadows the Nation's Adversaries. There we go. Which we will talk about in a moment. We want people to know we read around here. Liz?
Yes.
I am confused. I was under the impression, as a non-lawyer, that when the court tells you to do something, you do it. If you do not do it, there are ramifications, legal ramifications for whoever is not doing the thing that the court told them to do. The DOJ is saying, take our word for it. We said it. I would never write it down because it would make Donald Trump's feelings hurt, I guess. What is going on here?
What's going on here, Eugene, is Todd Blanche's DOJ just said, you can't make me to a federal judge.
Can they do that?
Well, the Constitution actually says that she can make them. There's this doctrine called judicial review, which has existed for over 200 years. The Supreme Court said in this case that every law student reads like their first day of law school called Marbury versus Madison. That it is the job of the courts to decide whether actions of the executive, the president, are legal and whether actions of Congress are legal. That's the basic role of the courts in our democracy. And Todd Blanche's Justice Department is saying, actually, no, we want to do that job too. So that's a huge problem. And it puts us essentially on the brink again of a constitutional crisis, because this is a situation where the executive branch is refusing to acknowledge the authority of the courts. It's very similar to what we saw at the beginning of the administration when the former acting Attorney General Emil Bove apparently told DOJ lawyers, we might need to say F you to the courts rather than comply with their orders that prohibit us from deporting people.
So then, Liz,
now Judge Emil Bove.
Yes. Now let me stick with you, Liz, because consequences. What are the consequences, if not as for Todd Blanche, if not in his official government role? Does he expose himself once he's out, like his law license? I mean, to Eugene's point, it's astounding to me that you have the acting attorney general saying to the court, bump you. We don't care what you have to say. And I don't see, what's the judge going to do? Because we have not seen a judge really push back hard, oh, you're not going to follow my ruling?
Contempt.
Contempt, send cops out, get them arrested. I don't know. I'm not the lawyer, so tell me.
The immediate remedy would be for the judge to hold these lawyers in contempt. And that's something that a few judges have started to do. We've seen in immigration cases over 200 instances in which the Justice Department has defied court orders. And in a couple of those cases, courts actually have held DOJ lawyers in contempt. So that could happen here. But you're right that we also need to be thinking about accountability further down the road. And one thing that a lot of people in the legal community are looking at is Todd Blanche's law license, along with the law licenses of other lawyers who are advocating for these positions that are not soundly based in law. These are people who ought to have serious looks taken at whether they should be licensed to practice law. And I expect that there will be many bar complaints filed against Todd Blanche and others in the Justice Department. We've already seen at least a few. So that would be the next step in legal accountability. But as far as this court's order, if the Justice Department has a problem with it, there is a process in place called an appeal to appeal the court's order to the next highest court. You don't just tell the court, I'm not going to do it. You have to comply with court orders or you have to challenge them in a lawful manner. And it just illustrates how unfit Todd Blanche is for the position that he's trying to win of Attorney General, the fact that he's running the Department of Justice like this.
I'm not going to do it. It doesn't work. So all y'all watching, if y'all get in trouble with the court, do not tell the judge, do not take Todd Blanche's advice here. Do something different.
Try this.
Well, I was actually surprised that they actually took down the Donald J. Trump from the Kennedy Center last week and abided by the court ruling, although we haven't seen it yet with our own eyes. But Eddie, I want to stay on this topic of accountability and get your perspective as someone who is sort of outside of Washington and maybe a more creative, just a more academic and creative thinker when it comes to what accountability might look like. I mean, have you had any conversations yet about a post-Trump administration accountability mechanisms?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we will make the President Ford move, decide we need to move on. I don't know if we're going to hold these folk accountable. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know who we're going to be on the other side of this madness, to be honest with you. What I'm interested in, though, is, I mean, here we have an example of the imperial presidency at work, right? He's not going to pay attention to the court's order. But for what? What's motivating it? So we have the combination of the enactment of the imperial presidency.
Let's begin with the breaking news. The Trump Justice Department is refusing to formally kill the president's so-called slush fund. Today, DOJ lawyers thumbed their nose at a federal judge, declining to sign a sworn declaration confirming that the $1.8 billion fund is really dead. On a notice to the court, the Justice Department wrote, quote, such declarations are unnecessary and the compelled testimony of senior officials from the executive branch, well, implicates serious separation of powers concerns. The judge had requested that both Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sign the declaration.
Now, here's the important part. That declaration would have been signed under the penalty of perjury, meaning that they can't lie. In their court filing, Trump's DOJ also touted Todd Blanche's assertion to Congress that the slush fund would not move forward. Yet Blanche's testimony to Congress was not under oath.
We are not moving forward with the fund, period. I'm not committing to doing anything in writing. No.
Okay.
I mean, I'll take it under advisement.
I'm just concerned because you're not under oath, and I want to trust you and I want to believe you. We all do. But putting it in writing would settle that issue.
So Trump's Justice Department essentially wants you to take their word for it. Okay.
And keep in mind that this is the same administration that's been accused of violating court orders to carry out mass deportations, missed the legal deadline to release the Epstein files, and has been accused of misconduct over that now infamous Broadview 6 case. Those are just some of the many reasons why it's impossible to take the Justice Department at its word. Tonight, Ankush Kadori is with us, and we're going to chat with him in just a second. But, ladies and gentlemen, we were at the Obama Presidential Center yesterday, and President Obama said something about how perhaps it was his own shortcomings. He was very humble, talking about that may have missed something. And I want to talk about my own shortcoming because I think a few weeks ago, I thought that the Senate Republicans had some spine.
Oh, you did?
That they had killed off this slush fund deal. That Tom Tillis and Bill Cassidy, these guys, the YOLOs, as I call them, who have nothing left to do, that they had found their spine and that they were going to stop the slush fund in its tracks and that this was going to be the end of it. That this was the one thing that Trump had gone over the line for because, talk about separation of powers. No legislative branch in here, no judicial review to essentially give money to people who attack the Capitol. That's what he wants to do here, folks. And Chairman Steele said, not so fast. They're going to get out of town, put this on the back burner, and just you wait in a few weeks, it's going to come back up.
Yep.
And it has.
And it has. And look, this is the MO. I mean, these guys are they are absolutely untrustworthy. They spew a lot of rhetoric and they beat their breasts and they're mad at Trump. That's my favorite now. They're mad at Trump. They're so upset. But they will give him everything he wants at the end of the day. And it's no longer about, oh, we're afraid of the base or we're afraid. It's just, they're Pavlovian at this point. They don't have any other response to Donald Trump except, yes, sir, please, sir, more, sir.
Well, I mean, look, I think the reality is what Congress could have done, what the Senate Republicans could have done, was make sure this was included in the reconciliation bill.
The corruption just keeps going. Trump simply cannot help himself. And frankly, this is exactly what many people expected. He says the scheme is dead, waits for the headlines to move on, and hopes the public forgets about it. But with new controversies breaking constantly, the calculation seems obvious. Bury the DOJ weaponization fund beneath the next wave of scandals and quietly bring it back when nobody is paying attention. But that strategy is not working. Whistleblowers and former DOJ officials have helped keep this story alive. And that matters because it shows Trump cannot simply make the controversy disappear. The reason he backed off in the first place was the enormous backlash from the media, the public, and even members of Congress. Politically, the fund is toxic. Republicans are already worried about the midterms, and supporting something this unpopular could make their position even worse. But there is also a deeply personal reason why some lawmakers may refuse to support it. Many members of Congress serving today were inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021, when the building was attacked and lawmakers from both parties were put in danger. The mob was specifically searching for figures such as Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi, but anyone caught in that chaos could have been at risk. Those lawmakers remember exactly what happened that day. So the idea of using government money in a way that could benefit people connected to January 6 goes beyond ordinary partisan politics. For many of them, it is something they simply cannot justify supporting.